It would be great to have someone who could do our work for us, right? Someone to prevent us from making mistakes. Someone to assist with our routine professionally and allow us to devote our time to communicating with our closest people. If only we could get results without wasting our time for nothing. Unfortunately, it's impossible in real life. But wait, Light Forex Social Trading. Spend your time doing what really matters to you.
Hi guys, good morning, 27th of August 2019, 8 a.m. CET, 7 a.m. London. Piotr here, meaning that this is a pre-London Open live market coverage only here on your Light Forex Global YouTube channel. Before we start, as usual, a risk warning, guys. Please bear in mind trading FX on margin carries a high level of risk, may not be suitable for investors. You can sustain a loss of some or all initial investments, so please do not invest the money that you cannot afford to lose. Seek education, gain experience before risking real money. However, past performance doesn't guarantee future results. Okay, looks like there was a Meisterstück yesterday from the public relation perspective, and it was done by the White House administration trying to calm market down as much as possible. And going through the charts, looks like the strategy was successful. So congratulations. Anyway, the question is who next is going to start to make President Trump nervous again. Anyway, that's what we are not gonna to discuss today. We are going to go strictly through the charts. Just to get back to the reality, especially ahead of end of the month. So quite important things from the risk on perspective. If on the higher time frame they can still hold the positive setups. Anyway, let's start, guys. With the invitation at 3 p.m. CET or 2 p.m. London. We are going to have educational live training room. We are going to cover US Cash Open as well, so you are more than welcome to join me later today as well. Now we have second ago the German Q2 final GDP. As expected, minus 0.1. Here you go on the chat window. Okay. So let's start, guys, with this euro dollar. Yesterday weak IFO from Germany. Today minus 0.1 in terms of the German GDP. So for sure that's not something might be positive and encouraged to buy the euro. The whole euro strength was in relation to the actually, yeah, we have to say that actually it was in relation to the situation in US, right? And because of the fireworks related to the President Trump. Now, because of yesterday, great job from the public relation perspective done by the White House administration. Market was calmed down a bit, and the dollar bulls were able to recover and recover well in a good way, especially from the euro dollar perspective. We were able to get back and close below 11.50. So in that case we are talking 11.15, we are talking about these upper shadows which we broke through last Friday. Unfortunately, market and bulls were not able to make the 2 consecutive daily close above this level, so we got back below, and right now we are sitting right above 111, and based on what we have here, there is a possibility that we are going to see 1080, 1060 and 1040 as the next levels, and the possibility to see the retest. And again, it's all about this previous swing low created on the 1st of August. So basically we are talking about the monthly close around the monthly open, right? So the bulls are fighting for a little bit of the positive body. So we shouldn't forget about this. So the first supply, of course, is right here, right now, around 11.15, right? So that might be the first supply line. The second supply line is, of course, the weekly open and the yesterday high, especially the weekly open in relation to the Friday high. That might create the possibility of the swing high trade here. So in case of the breaking through 11.15, that might open the way towards 11.50, 11.60 again. And if you remember 11.60, we discussed that it's quite important because it's also the low from the 12th of August. Once was broken to the downside, we never got back above. So the first task for buyers is to close above 11.60, but that's going just neutralize the bearish view. The bulls, to be honest with you, need to make it a little bit more bullish. We need the close above this upper shadow. We need the close above 12.50, right? That could turn market a little bit more bullish. Yeah, we will see. On the other hand, bears are very close. This 11 psychological level, daily close below 111 again, might open the low from the 23rd of August. In that case, we are talking about 1052, so between 1080, 1060, 1040. That's what we discussed a second ago, and the low from the very 1st of August, in that case 1027, right? Closing below this whole zone, especially closing below the psychological 110 level, might open the door for 108. But here the big blue zone is the weekly possible demand zone, so that's why we are fighting at the top of that zone. But the bottom of that zone is around 108, so cannot be ruled out here. We also, from this daily chart perspective, have a trend line here, so it's also worth to watch, to have in place. Anyway, let's switch to the intraday chart and let's have a look what we can do here, right? What might be the possible trading scenarios? So again, 11.15, top of the zone of the possible supply based on the intraday chart, based on the hourly chart. We are talking about this breakout candle, right, as well as the red line related to the monthly chart. So right now, after the break towards the end of the session yesterday, very quiet Tokyo session, and right now, right here, we are testing the possible supply based on the hourly chart. So So that's the first possible supply. Of course, the second possible supply close to weekly open, but in case of the weekly open and then mid of the Tokyo session yesterday and beginning of European session, the high, the supply here been tested, right? So it might be the case that already consumed. So overall, watching this supply right now, right here, and watching the low here towards 1080 and 1060 as a possible demand from the intraday perspective. So what I'm talking about here is the zone from where market started to rise last Friday, right? So that's the demand, and might be tested over the course of the day. Okay, so here we go. Quite easy. In case of the move back above 11.15, right? As I mentioned, weekly open and 11.50-60 as a possible target, but it might be the case for buyers to try to make equal waves to the upside. All right. So in case of the move back, it might be based on the equal waves. We might retest top of the channel or falling trend line with 112 on the horizon. That could be the case, right? But if we are about to fall lower and retest the Friday demand, that might be this scenario, and in that case we might just look for stop hunt above Friday high to create the trend line and stop hunt based on this third touch, right? So that's why I've mentioned at the beginning that move above 1160 just neutralize the bearish view, and the bulls need much more to try to create bullish setup. So yeah, that's about euro dollar. Let's have a look what we have in the calendar today. Nothing extraordinary, to be honest with you. During our afternoon meeting, we are going to cover US consumer confidence, and I'm very curious what we are going to get. Of course, above expectations, we should see continuation of the risk on sentiment, but it's still too early to try to call it, right? Let's switch to cable, and the dollar bears are in a little bit more comfortable situation here. Even we are very close to the possible supply, but we are holding certain levels. We are holding above some certain levels. So overall, the situation is that we have this falling channel, right? So overall is bearish. Now, yesterday and Friday we finished the equal moves, taking into the consideration the biggest move inside this channel. So we did it, right? And that equals to retest the channel high. What I don't like here is that we didn't try to hit more stops above the top of the channel and go back inside. That would be bearish setup for me, right? So still something closer to 23 and above 23 towards 20, almost to 23.90.24. That's where next supply resides, right? That's where the next supply resides, over here. But as long as we are holding 23, the situation may worsen here, and the bulls might be under pressure again. From the so watching 23, watching the yesterday high, Friday high, I'm watching for tiny stop count and rejection as a bear. In case, and especially that we are below the weekly open right now. But if you are a bull, then we might see a little bit deeper pullback. Especially market may want to look for stops below yesterday low and below the Friday low. And as you can see, this consolidation around the top of that range, which has been created on the 9th of August over here. Right. So levels close to 2180, 2150. So the same we discussed previously might works as a possible demand. So it's worth to remember. So trying to summarize the cable to the upside, levels above 23, and in case of the rejection and move back into inside the channel, right, that might be the bearish setup. Pullback from here towards 2180, 2150, and depends on the price action there, that might be intraday bullish setup. So let's switch to the lower time frame. And the price action from the Friday break to the upside, right, and the zone we discussed yesterday been broken to the downside, and in that case it's very similar to what we have on euro dollar, right? And then 2150, that's this orange zone, right? And 2180, I'm sorry, it's the breakout, the first breakout here. Right, so between 2180 and 2150, that's where we might see some eventually some bullish activity. Short-term chart here showing the possibility. I'm trying to visualize. Very often, I'm trying to visualize the right side of the chart. Might be that because of the falling trend line or top of the channel from the daily, because of the price action over here. That might be the creation of the possible something looks similar to head and shoulders, right? But I don't want to see action from here higher towards the weekly open and towards the top of the channel. What I would like to see in that case, I would like to see first the break of Friday low, hit that stops, hit 2180, right? So to take out the last demand totally, right? Then try to really trap the buyers, and from here to see the move lower, for example, towards 2150, 2140, 45, right? So that's from the bear's perspective. From the bull's perspective, as I mentioned, the zone 2180, 2150, that's where, especially the closest to 2150, as on this early chart, we have this base here, right? That's what I'm gonna look for from the buying perspective. So both scenarios here for sellers and for buyers on the cable. Very interesting situation is going on the dollar yen, especially after yesterday price action. That's what we discussed, and the important thing is the reaction after we broke through the low from the beginning of the year, right? As well as we broke through the low which has been created in the mid of March 2018, right? So we have this lower shadow. The green dotted line is showing the low, yesterday low. So as you can see below, two very important levels, and we touch to the point, finally we touch the possible demand based on the weekly chart. So in that case, I'm not gonna be surprised if the market, once the conditions improve, I mean, if we are not going to see for the next few days angry President Trump, and if we are going to see more action towards some agreements, right? Especially yesterday, what I've been talking about when saying about this PR, public relation action from the White House administration, it was, you know, on each front it was some kind of the nice words, and you know, suddenly President Trump was mentioning that he can meet Iran. He said that North Korea got the great future. Also complimenting the Chinese President Xi. So you know, plenty of this stuff yesterday happened. So that's one of the reasons of the calm market. And we saw this reaction and rejection rally of that possible demand. So from the daily chart perspective, nice candle, no continuation as yet. I do expect retest of the weekly open, all right? So we might see some kind of over under, and in case of the lack of fireworks, right, from the President Trump side and the White House administration, we might see attempt to continuation higher. And now let me get back to the weekly chart to explain more. It might be because we are testing, that's one of the few currency crosses with dollar where we are still above the post-election low, right? So that was the reaction. It might be, in case of the more positive things, the question is if we can get more positive things. That's the most important thing. But still, it might be that toward the next FOMC we might see the bounce, right? And what I'm talking about is that market may try to treat this year low before what happened yesterday, right? And the low from the March 2018, that might be treated as a whole consolidation, right? So I'm not gonna be surprised to see rally back at least towards 50% of that possible consolidation. If we can agree that that's the consolidation, then the retest of 108.50, 109.20, this swing high, right, trying to close the business around 109, that could be the name of the game, okay, here from the higher time frame perspective. So in that case, if we are going to retest the weekly open today, right, later during the day, I'm talking about the levels close to 105, I'm going to watch very carefully the price action around this level. It might be some kind of the buying opportunity, okay? In case of the move back higher and close above the Friday high, right, that might open the way to the levels we were discussing a second ago, 108.50, 109.20 in that case, right? And yeah, I think that might be the case here on the dollar yen. So again, watching the levels close to 105 from the buying perspective. The first target is gonna be around 107, 107.30. The levels been discussed yesterday as well. That was the levels we discussed previous week, because we have some nice pull of the stops above 107, right? And in case of the stop count and the rejection, that would be the sell setup. So both sides here watching for the certain setups. Buyers are looking for retest of 105 and positive price action, suggesting a possible rally. First target is going to be something towards 107. The second target something towards 108.50, 109. The sellers are looking for a stop count above 107 and rejection back to this original range. So then 105 could be the first target, 103, 102 as a second target. because what we were discussing, the big range from the weekly chart, we cannot forget about this possible small range here on the daily chart, right? And right now we are in the middle of the range. So trying to trade the ranges on the dollar yen. Okay, so that's how I see the things here. Switching lower to the hourly chart, we almost did equal move to the upside. There was some kind of the supply a little bit high related to the Friday. We didn't fulfill these orders yet, right? So I've been talking about 105 from the daily chart perspective, the weekly open. We have a possible intraday zone in between 105.25, 105.15, and that's what I'm gonna to look for as well, right? So I'm going to watch in that case from that perspective 105.25, 15, but here the target is going to be the yesterday high only, and levels towards yesterday high if it holds. If that's yellow zone, yellow possible demand zone not going to hold, then again the plan from the higher time frame perspective, over under on the daily chart, that's what I'm gonna to look. That's what I'm gonna to look for. The thing is that this 105.15, 105.25 is also logical when we switch to the daily chart as it's the Friday low. Okay, so we might not test this low and weekly open. We might just stop around what we've seen on Friday, especially late Friday, from the dollar yen perspective. Let's switch to indices for a second. Yesterday, congratulations to everyone who was long and took the profit based on our measure, right? And some shorts who were able to grab few points to the downside, all right? So that's worked very well yesterday. Now, because it's a history already, we have to switch to the daily chart and try to check what we have here. And in that case, the rally towards 7,850 based on my chart still cannot be read out because of yesterday price action, right? Again, strong action right at support, finishing the business in relation to the swing low, which has been created on the 6th of August as well as the 5th of August. So ideally we hit some stops based on the low created on the 15th as well as the low created on the 7th. So everything is fine here. We are in the middle of that range right now. So I'm gonna to remove this green. So yeah, we hit some stops to the downside, so it's time for stops to the upside. So as you can see, based on the chart, I was very negative yesterday, right? I was very negative yesterday, but the market proved me wrong later over the course of the day by reversing all those moves, right? I thought that we might see more downside. We haven't seen, and looks like market may want to try to push to the upside. That's why we are talking about the both possible scenarios. That's why we are talking, and I'm pointing out both possible scenarios from the bulls and bears perspective. I'm doing this very often, but especially yesterday, and we have to remember about the approaching end of the month. So the big boys will fight for their businesses, right? Anyway, from that perspective, possible demand on Nasdaq around yesterday low, possible supply towards 7,750, but I think because of what we've seen already, we might see stop count and move higher towards 7,850 here on the Nasdaq. So we are in the middle of the road right now, so carefully watching. Gold. So if market is trying to calm down a bit, right? if the possible bullish scenario on Nasdaq, hence on other indices as well, is might be in play, I think that yesterday price action on the gold, especially that, as you can see, to the point we hit supply based on the weekly chart. Let's switch to the weekly chart. As you can see, we hit to the point the supply based on the weekly chart. We had this supply here for quite some time. We discussed it many times, and finally we hit with rejection, right? So the yesterday candle doesn't look good. The positive thing is that still it was the highest close, right? Besides the rejection, still the close yesterday was quite high, and we trying to retest weekly open right now on gold. And because we have supply based on the weekly chart, I think we might see a little bit lower levels. And in case we are correct with indices, right, especially with the bullish scenario, we might see some profit taking on gold. And in that case, I wouldn't be surprised to see deeper pullback towards 1415, 1365, all right? So how I would approach this? So right now, if you see, we are retesting weekly open, right? So in case of the rejection here, so let me place some weekly open line. Blue dotted. All right. So that's where the chance may arise, trying to reject the weekly open. So let's switch to the hourly chart, right? And we have this swing high here, and that's the bottom of that stop hunt candle yesterday. So perfect place, and been tested yesterday, perfect place to try to build something based on that, right? And try to push prices lower. From the intraday perspective, of course, the bottom of that consolidation, something below 1500 as a first target from the intraday perspective. From the medium term perspective, if the profit taking scenario is correct, then we might see, as I mentioned, 1415, 1365. So I'm going to look over the course of the day, and I do prefer to trade gold over the course of the US session. But if we are going to be able to hold weekly open, and as long as we are below weekly open, especially with some kind of the upper shadow, yeah, that might be usable from the short traders perspective. In case of the buyers, right, I would wait for some stops to the downside, right? From the intraday perspective, it might be something closer to levels we discussed previous week, 1485, 1480, right? In case you think it's gonna get worse, the risk, the sentiment on the market, okay? But for now, here, looking for some nice setup with possible to the downside. Especially I'm looking for some kind of the upper shadow, but the close below the weekly open. That's easy, right? Ooh. Oil, right, attempt to reverse upper shadow. So here possible continuation to the downside, especially that we got back and close below this previous swing high, right? So that's important where we are. There you go, right? So I think we might see attempt to continue to the downside. In that case, the target and possible demand closer to 50 to 52 on oil. So again, switching to the lower time frame, I'm going to watch very carefully the price action towards 54, 50, 55, 30. So I'm talking from the intraday perspective about the high over here, this upper shadow and the swing high here. From the bulls perspective, again, I would wait for more stop count below yesterday low, right? Taking into the consideration equal waves. So the last move to the downside was from here, and yeah, so that's what I would focus on. Still possible. Anyway, that's how it looks from the majors on FX, from the Nasdaq perspective, from the gold and oil perspective. Again, you're more than welcome to join me this afternoon, 3 p.m. CET, 2 p.m. London. I'm going to cover New York Cash Open live. We are going to do educational live training room. So in case of some kind nice action and setup, I'm going to try to make a few trades. Don't be trapped during the London session. Join me this afternoon. Have a great day, and see you around a little bit later today. Goodbye, guys.